So you're looking at the Edifier S350DB, the bookshelf speaker with the giant 8-inch subwoofer promising theater-level sound for under $600. But what if I told you that this highly rated system has some frustrating, deal-breaking problems that most reviewers just gloss over? Therefore, you need to watch this honest review before you spend a single dime. For the best price, click the link in the description. Now, let's be clear. On paper, the Edifier S350DB sounds like a dream. Titanium dome tweeters, that massive sub, and a ton of connection options like Bluetooth 5.1. But here's what surprised me after using it for a month. The bass isn't just powerful, it can be a complete bully that ruins the entire audio experience. However, that's just the beginning of the problems. Therefore, stick around because I'm going to dive deep into the real-world performance where this system stumbles, and I'll show you who should actually buy it. Let's get into it. The first thing you'll notice is the build quality. The satellite speakers feel solid, with a nice wood finish that looks more expensive than the price tag. They have a good heft to them, but the included remote control feels like it came from a dollar store toy. It's light, plasticky, and the buttons have a mushy, unsatisfying click. It's a small thing, but it sets the tone. Therefore, setting it up is straightforward. You connect the satellites to the subwoofer with the provided cables, and then connect the sub to your TV or source. The cables are thick and decent quality, no complaints there. However, here's problem number one. The cable management is a nightmare. The ports on the back of the subwoofer are recessed in a weird, tight cluster. Trying to plug in an optical cable, an RCA cable, and the power cord feels like performing surgery with oven mitts on. It's a comedy of errors. I felt like I needed a smaller, more dexterous set of hands, or maybe just to give up and become a monk who listens to silence. Once it's all plugged in, you power it on, and the system greets you with a voice prompt. A very loud, startling voice prompt that says Bluetooth mode or optical mode. But you can't turn it off. There's no setting in the manual, no secret button press. Every time you change the input, this robotic voice yells at you. It's like the speaker is narrating its own life story, and it's a very boring story about switching inputs. Therefore, let's talk about sound, which is why you're here. I fired up some high-quality FLAC music tracks first. The initial impression: the titanium dome tweeters are fantastic. Highs are crystal clear and detailed without being harsh or sibilant. Vocals are present and natural. The mid-range from the satellites is warm and inviting. However, then the bass kicked in. And it didn't just arrive, it kicked down the door, rearranged the furniture, and demanded to be the center of attention. The 8-inch subwoofer has one volume, dominant, even with the subwoofer level knob on the back turned down to what should be its minimum. The bass is overwhelmingly boomy and poorly integrated. It doesn't feel like a cohesive part of the music. It feels like a separate, angry entity living in a box under your desk. Listening to acoustic guitar or a podcast, you'll still feel a constant, low-frequency rumble in the background. It's like having a neighbor who only practices the kick drum. Therefore, for movies, this can be a bit better. Explosions in action movies have serious impact. You feel the Thor hammer hits. But for dialogue-heavy scenes or nuanced scores, the subwoofer's lack of subtlety is a constant distraction. It turns a dramatic tension scene into a vague feeling of impending seismic activity. However, the biggest audio problem isn't just the bass quantity, it's the lack of control. There is no way to adjust the crossover frequency. The satellites and subwoofer are hardwired to split the sound at a fixed point, and it sounds like that point is set way too high. This means too many mid-bass frequencies get sent to the sub, making male voices and instruments sound thin in the satellites and muddy in the sub. It's a fundamental design flaw you can't fix. Therefore, let's talk about the wireless features. Bluetooth 5.1 with aptX is a great spec on paper, and connection is stable. But the range is surprisingly poor. Walk more than 20 feet away with walls in between and the connection stutters. My phone sitting in my pocket while I moved around my apartment caused more dropouts than a college student with a bad Wi-Fi connection. And that handy wireless remote. It needs a direct line of sight to the subwoofer's tiny infrared sensor. A piece of paper blocking the path will make it useless. You have to aim it like you're defusing a bomb. However, the other wired connections work fine. The optical input is perfect for your TV, and the coaxial and RCA inputs give you flexibility. The sound quality over these wired connections is noticeably cleaner and more dynamic than over Bluetooth, which is expected. But here's a joke for you. The Edifier S350DB Bluetooth is like a loyal dog. It's happy to see you when you're close, but if you wander off to another room, it gets confused and gives up. Therefore, after weeks of testing, who is this for? If you are a bass head who wants window rattling, chest-thumping low-end for action movies and EDM music above all else, and you don't care about balanced sound, this might work. But for anyone who values accuracy, nuanced audio, or a balanced listening experience for music, gaming, or critical movie watching, the S350DB is a frustrating letdown. Its 4.4-star Amazon rating is baffling, until you realize most people are wowed by the sheer power in the first 5 minutes and leave a review before they notice the problems. However, my biggest gripe is the lack of a proper EQ or any way to truly tame the subwoofer. At this price point, nearly $550, that's unacceptable. Competing systems from brands like Klipsch or even Edifier's own higher-end lines offer app control, EQ settings, and a more refined sound. Therefore, my final verdict. Don't buy the Edifier S350DB if you're looking for a refined, versatile bookshelf speaker system. It's a one-trick pony, and that trick is overpowering bass. It's the audio equivalent of putting hot sauce on everything. Sometimes you want to taste the food. But if you've watched this far, you now know the real problems. The boomy, uncontrolled bass, the annoying voice prompts, the finicky remote, and the lack of any real tuning options. However, I did promise 4 jokes, so here's the last one. This speaker system is like a teenager with a new subwoofer in their car. It's loud, it gets attention, but it has no idea what subtlety or balance means, and eventually you just want it to be quiet. Therefore, you deserve better for your money. You deserve a system that delivers on all its promises without the glaring flaws. For a detailed comparison and my top recommendations for bookshelf speaker systems that actually get it right, check the card on screen now. And for the best price on alternatives, or if you still want to check out the Edifier S350DB for yourself, click the link in the description below. I've got you covered. Thanks for watching.